Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Burkus. Other side of the screen, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Bears did it. They got to 2-2. They got a victory on a kind of a crazy, sloppy day in Vegas. It's like everybody went out except for Max Crosby last night, or maybe Max Crosby didn't go to sleep. Maybe he was still out. I don't know what that man is on, but that is, I need a little bit of that every once in a while. Bears survived Vegas. How'd you take the game?
Max Crosby's a fun player. Like there's guys around the league. Well, I'll make sure like if this guy is on, I want to make sure I watch that game. If the Raiders are ever on in my area, besides just the red zone stuff, I'll make sure I try and watch him because he's a really good player, really fun player to watch. Just high energy, nonstop motor. You know, that's the kind of guy you can really build a defense around. And he pretty much almost won that game for the Raiders.
I mean, one man wrecking crew. You know, like. The Raiders, I think the Raiders would be kind of like if you're starting from scratch, didn't know anything about anything, and you're just looking at like uniforms and like the logo and like all that kind of stuff. Raiders are kind of a fun pick, right? Silver and black. You got the pirate thing going. When they were in LA, you know, it's kind of reminded me of California Love, the Dre and Tupac collaboration, right? And then they moved to Vegas, and it's like, okay, now you're in the desert. Now it really feels like Mad Max, you know, and you've got this guy, Max Crosby, Mad Max. It just fits so well. It's just so perfect. And I mean, that guy is just, he's built like very few people you've ever seen play football. Yeah. He just has these like long arms. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. It was like, oh, he was like an amazing swimmer or something. He's just built in like a weird long way. And he's just a terror. Like he looks like he's running at 110% the entire game. He doesn't slow down. I mean, he's annoying. He's a pest. He talks the whole time, you know, like you could see him going back and forth with Caleb. You can see him going back and forth with other guys. But like, yeah, like you say, like those are some of those guys where you like cheering for them, even though they don't play for your own team. And it's easier to say that when your team walks out of there with a victory. We might be feeling a little different if the score would have turned out a little differently. But yeah, he's a player I like. You only see the Raiders every 4 years anyway, as a Bears fan. So that's good. Let's leave him for another 4 years and not see him for a while, because he was a terror. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, or I wasn't sure where I was going to fit it into the show. Were you bothered by the score crawler at the bottom? Like every time a play would end, the orange would like flash yellow, and every time I thought there was going to be a flag.
So I noticed early on, at one point, they weren't showing the down and distance. Like I was like, what is going on here? Like, what is I was about to tweet it. I was so mad. I'm like, what's happening here? What is it down and distance? I don't know what's going on. And then I noticed what you mentioned about that happening during the game as well. So it's CBS, right? Like their production value is just not up to par with Fox.
They're the lowest, right? I mean, Fox is better, NBC's better, the Monday night games are better on ABC, ESPN, and the Prime's great, right? You watch Prime Vision. I mean, I don't know if anybody doesn't watch that. Like, to me, that's the way to watch it. You get the all 22 views. But the production value of CBS is like a distant last place for me. They don't
show replays. Like when you want to replay, like I want to see a replay of this holding call or this penalty or this run. They're laid on everything. It's just, why? I mean, Fox and CBS are the two, right? Those are the two grandfathers of NFL coverage, and CBS drops the ball to me. They have.
I don't understand the creative decision to make it flash yellow when they changed because that's penalty, right? Get any other color, right? Flash it gray, right? Just not yellow. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, all right, let's get into the show. Let's get into Trench Tribute. I'm going to start off this week, and I know that this is an odd pick because the run defense wasn't particularly good overall, but I think this particular guy did show up, particularly in big spots. There's some TFLs on the books, like, in big moments. And that's our guy, Big Bill. Andrew Billings, there was a little bit of chatter that like maybe Billings isn't a guy that Dennis Allen likes to use. He doesn't like that big body. Maybe he's a guy that could get cut. Maybe he's a guy that could get traded. And I was like, what are we talking about? He's a good football player. If you can't figure out how to use a good football player, then that's on you as a coach, right? obviously he stuck around. When he's been in there, I think he's been impactful. I understand he's not going to take up 80% of the snaps, but as a rotational, big run stuffing guy that can collapse the pocket, I think he's really valuable. And I thought he had a pretty good game.
3 tackles, had a tackle for loss. I think he may have been in there on the towards the end where they had to have a stop, and Kevin Bayard made the tackle for loss. So yeah, I mean, he takes up space. I mean, that's what he's in it for. I just have a hard time going defense this week because they gave up 7.7 yards per carry against the Raiders, and it's just one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. And look, it's not all one guy, right? He's not the one guy. Like maybe his gap is good. Maybe he has good gap integrity. Maybe he's doing his job, and there's some breakdowns around him. And that's something I'm going to watch next time I rewatch this one to see what's going on there, because he is a good run defender. So why is this Bears defense not as good? I need to get someone who knows the X's and O's of defense way better than I do to kind of explain what's happening there. It's not just missed tackles. That's not all it is. It's, they're giving up too many lanes. They're giving up too much ground. So that's my only quibble with going defense there. But yeah, I mean, overall though, I think he was doing his job pretty good.
Just imagine how high that number would be if Big Bill wasn't on the field, Lester. Yeah. That's the imaginary part. All right. What about you? Turn it around. Who do you want to highlight this week?
You know what? I'm going to go Ozzie Trapillo just because we didn't expect him to play, right? I mean, they started Theo Benedet. He got started right tackle, which I was a little.
Was this? I'm sorry. Is this Eggs Benedict?
Eggs Benedict right there. Eggs.
Yep. Okay.
I thought they would go with Ozzie as the starter because he has been working exclusively at right tackle the last few weeks, whereas Theo's been going kind of back and forth. Eggs has been going back and forth. He's your swing guy. He's your OL6 coming in for jumbo package at tight end. So I can see why he was active over Trapillo on game day. But look, you're needing a starting right tackle. He's your second-round draft pick. I thought maybe they'd roll the dice and give him the start, but they didn't. They went with Eggs. Had a rough game against Max, which we just talked about how good of a player he is. But when Trapillo went in there, he was pretty good. I mean, he had some moments, and when he was matched up against Crosby one-on-one, the athleticism was like so evident. Like, Trapillo's not that slow. I mean, he's a big guy, right? But against Max Crosby, he looked really slow because Max is just such a quick twitch athlete, like really twitchy, really quick, able to kind of, make one move and Ozzie still kind of react to the first move and Max is on move 3 now. What are we doing here? So it is what it is. I mean, he's a rookie making his first big time play here. For what he was asked to do, I thought he came in and did a pretty good, decent job. I think I saw the PFF stats, had him down for, 2 pressures. Those stats are always kind of iffy. It depends what's a pressure, what's not a pressure. If the quarterback moved off the spot, is that a pressure? Is it not a pressure? Did he step up? Is that a pressure? Who knows? But overall, for what he was asked to do when it kind of came in, I got to give it to the rookie Trapillo this week.
Yeah, he got beat very fast on one by Max Crosby, and Caleb did a little Olay. And so there's a lot of stuff going around, 26 snaps, no quarterback hits, no sacks given up, and 2 pressures. And it's like, yeah, I mean, there's a couple where he got beat like a drum pretty bad. But like you said, we didn't expect him to play. You and I were talking, during the week, and was like, okay, I think they're going to start Eggs at right tackle. But if something happens to Braxton, I could see them moving Eggs back to left tackle and then moving Trapillo in. It's the first time that he has dressed this year. That's how I think they're going to play it. Lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. So I do love it when I'm right. But it's one of those things where I think Benedict had already gotten a lot of game action. He was already trusted. I think that he's kind of earned that right to be able to step in for Darnell there. And yeah, it didn't look very good, and neither did the other side. And so we'll see as more information comes out. Was that more to do with injury with Braxton? Was that they said they needed a spark? Was that the backup plan there to move Benedict back to left and get Trapillo in and get him some reps? That is end up what happening, but we'll see what happens moving forward. Is Darnell Wright going to come back healthy? And if he is he going to maybe are you going to move right to left, right? I got to make that article. I got to write the article. Just say moving right to left, because that sounds like a great turn of phrase.
Real quick, I think we should talk about Braxton here since we brought him up. I mean, he looked, he got hurt right at one point. He was on the turf for a little while there, and they made the change, and I think most fans assumed, okay, he's hurt. He was still playing an extra point team. He was still playing field goal team, so he was okay enough to play. Ben Johnson wasn't really pressed on it last night at the presser. He was asked today about it, and he just kind of said they'll evaluate things at the bye here, and they'll figure out how they're going to move forward at left tackle moving forward. Look, Braxton Jones probably had his best game of the season against the Cowboys 2 weeks ago, right? So maybe he's riding into shape. Maybe it's still not enough. Maybe his lateral movement's not where they want it to be. Maybe they just want to get their best 5 on the field, and they don't feel Braxton is one of their best 5. Also, he's in his contract year. There is no future probably for Braxton Jones with this team. So if you feel things are equal, why not play the guy that's going to be here long term? So that could be in play here as well. And like you said, man, Darnell Wright, I know a lot of fans are upset, like, you can't make this move in the middle of a season. Well, I don't think the Bears are doing something on a whim. I'm sure Darnell Wright has been talked to at some point. I'm sure he has been worked out at left tackle at some point. Otherwise, they're not going to make this move in the middle of the year. He has some good athleticism. He probably can make this move if asked to. Will he be as good of a right tackle as left, or good on the left side as a right? Probably not at first, but he may grow into that role. So it's definitely something to kind of monitor going forward. I never like flipping sides like that. I mean, if he's your best right tackle, then he should play on the right side. But they drafted a right tackle. He couldn't play on the left. He had to get kicked back over there. Karan Amagazi hasn't worked out. Braxton's hurt. So in order to get your best 5 out there, you may have to sit Braxton down and roll with Darnell on the left side.
He's such a good pass blocker. So, if you can make that switch mentally and physically with the muscle memory, which is a lot of it, then I think it's probably the best long-term answer. So I know 2 weeks probably isn't enough time to get ready for that, but these guys are pros, and we'll see what happens. So my tweet actually was about Ozzie. So let's move into that category. This is from Kyle Long, our friend Kyle Long at you guys know where he's at. He said Ozzie looked patient in his sets and had a plan. When he had help in the form of a chip or a double from a tight end, he helped his guard for as long as necessary, which is great. And then it says, part of the game is understanding where to help. Even more important, when to leave the guy you're helping. Currently, he seems to get it. And I think this is one thing that if you played offensive line, at least for a little while in your life, or you've really studied it, that's the part that I don't think gets talked about enough, is understanding how to work with the guy on either side of you, and knowing, like, if you're on a double team, when to move off into the second level. Like, okay, this guy's got this guy handled, I can move off and go get the linebacker. Or I'm in a pass set and I need to stay here for an extra beat, and then I can make that move athletically to get over to this guy that's coming, or this blitzing linebacker, or whatever that is, right? And it's just a lot of feel to know, what you can count on with the guys next to you. And so, for Kyle, who's played guard, played tackle, at a high level in the league, to watch Ozzie and be able to recognize, the athletic part, the game part, and also that offensive lineman's intelligence part of it. I thought that was a really great thing to see early, that he believes in him. And, Kyle Long's got at least a little invested here because he's wearing his number.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing we heard the coaches talk about Ozzie Trapillo when they drafted him, was high football IQ, right? He really understands the game. I mean, his dad played. He went to a pro-style type offense at Boston College, so he understands what he's seeing from some of the stuff up front. One thing I did notice when he was out there was he knew, like Kyle said, he knew where the help was. He also was pretty good on the stunts. When the Raiders ran a stunt in front of him, he knew when to pass off and when to accept the guy coming towards him. And that's a feel thing. That's a thing that we've seen this Bears team struggle with all under the Chris Morgan era, when he was the O-line coach, is they couldn't handle a stunt. And here's Ozzie in his first action, and I'm like, oh my God, the first one I saw him do, flawless. He picked it up perfectly. I mean, this is a good sign for him. Is he the greatest athlete? No, but he's 6'8". He's got long arms that can make up for a lot. I think he's got to work on his pad level a little bit in his sets. He seemed like he was lunging a little bit. He was a little too far over his feet. And I think in time he'll settle in. He'll be a little more reactionary instead of thinking. And I think when that happens, like I said, I like the pick. It just was I was unsure where he was going to fit in. It seems like it's going to be right side. If he's the right side, then I think that means you got to move Darnold right over because he's pretty good too.
He also, like, we need to just take a beat and realize that, not you and me, but like we as a fan base and as a community here, like, let's not try to judge a guy's career before he ever gets on the field either, right? Like a lot of these guys were burying this guy's career because he wasn't on the field as the first man up after Darnell went down or Braxton was struggling, right? They liked Eggs Benedict. So, like at some point, he can't beat out an undrafted free agent. Well, awesome for that undrafted free agent for establishing himself, and Trapillo taking a little bit more time, but now he's in the fray. Maybe it's his time, and maybe he's fine. Maybe he just needed a little bit more time, and sometimes these guys need that full year of the strength and conditioning program as well. Like I don't want to underestimate that either. So, 26 reps. There was some good stuff. There was some stuff where you're like, oh yeah, Max Crosby isn't a freak, and some things in between. So, we'll see if we get to see more, after the bye. If he's maybe the starter at right tackle moving forward, then we'll see what happens. But until then, interesting to get to see the rookie. We'll put it that way. Yeah. Let's move on to yours. What do you got?
Another Kyle Brandt at Kyle Brandt. I've seen so many Bears teams that lose that game. Talk about the game against the Raiders where they just kind of played bad all over the place and pulled it out. They scored too fast at the end. They didn't make the 2-point conversion. They gave up the big kick return. This Bears team won anyway. They made a damn play. You love to see it. And that's kind of, we talked a little bit about it last week too. And, the Cowboys came back. They tied that game at 14 in the first half. And we're like, here we go again. And they stepped on the Cowboys' throat. They came back and they took it to them. Here we are, different kind of scenario. But again, it kind of shows this team, the character of this team, that they were bad. Like offense, defense, they were just playing bad football. And then in the last few minutes of the game, all three phases stepped up and made a play. I mean, Caleb was good in the last drive. DeAndre Swift ran better in the last drive. The defense made a stop when they had to make a stop at the end. And then, of course, Josh Blackwell comes through and makes that block. And, did anyone think that was going to happen? I mean, that was ridiculous. I mean, who could have seen that coming? And then you hear Josh Blackwell talk about that his long snapper kind of told him, hey, I noticed when the Raider long snapper is ready to snap, he kind of moves the ball a little bit. So he was timing it, right? So this goes to like scouting your opponent. This is your teammates having each other's backs. And then they talk about in the locker room how the culture is changing. These are those kind of culture changing victories that a team needs to kind of shake that flu stink off them.
I think it's really cool that the long snapper would run over to the end guy on the punt block or on the field goal block in Blackwell and be like, hey man, I was noticing the other long snapper. And then I love that Blackwell just burned it, right? Like he doesn't care. This guy plays for the Raiders. Who cares, right? And he just burned him, because now you've just put it on, like the Bears took advantage of it. Yeah. And now like that's on tape. Other people could notice that. But so in a way, he kind of helped the guy out. I know that doesn't seem like it because he's probably getting called out here, but he actually kind of helped him out because if he didn't say anything, then other people were going to potentially pick up on it. And all of a sudden he's got the Raiders have had like 7 block kicks. What's happening? Right. Yeah. Until somebody figures it out in self-scouting. So in a way, I think he helped him, but he also burned him, which I thought was kind of funny in the moment.
It's like a fraternity, right? The long snappers all hang out. They all get together. They swap stories and they're probably to help each other out. That's the quarterbacks are tight, right? Around the league. In a wild way, hey, it helped the team, but also we wanted to make sure you knew, and we got that out there, right? Anyway, I thought that was pretty great, and we'll get to Blackwell here at some point, I'm sure. Let's move on to caught up in a numbers game and talk about stats. I think I'm going to start off here, and I'm going to be a little selfish. I'm going to talk about
my own stat, the step differential. So for those of you that have been with us for a while and know that last year I was tracking toxic differential plus, which was my innovation off of the old Brian Billick stat. I renamed that to something that's a little bit more mnemonic and easier to understand what I'm saying, because a lot of people didn't like the name toxic differential. So still writing that article every week on Windy City Gridiron. So, check that out. But STEP stands for sacks, turnovers, explosive play differential. Turnovers are worth double. And so the number is +4, and that's the +4 was the Bears won this game +4, the step differential. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is I'm seeing all this stuff about, look at how bad the Bears got beat. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think they did, because the things that are really important are in this number, the sacks, the turnovers, the explosive plays. And the Bears did well here. They won the turnover differential 4-1. And so I understand that there was some sloppiness. There were some drives that weren't completed. There was, the one sack was like a tough one to take because it put you. So there was a lot that sort of felt wrong, but a +4 step differential is really good. And I went back to the numbers last year, and I only have 1 year of game-to-game data, and I have a whole bunch of years of year-to-year data. But in the individual game data, if you win step differential by +1 or +2, this was last year's record. Those teams were 43-27, so it's a 61% win percentage. Pretty good. I mean, for a stat that's just a little bit positive, That's a pretty good number. If you're +3, +4, or +5, that record last year was 59-21, so it jumps up to 73.8%. So that's it's really, really strong.
Yeah.
And then if you go +6, +7, it was 37-4, which is a 90% win percentage. And then if you're 8 or over, teams were 61-0. So to me, this is a really good correlating stat. I feel like my numbers, if you want to run all your stats on them, are pretty strong, right? And the Bears won this stat in this game by +4, which last year had a 74% win percentage. So this idea that they got super lucky, they escaped, it's a little bit. Both teams were pretty sloppy, but the Bears did have some really important statistics on their side as well. So I just don't think it was this super lopsided game that the Bears just somehow got lucky and escaped here. They deserved to win this game as much as the Raiders did, and even more so because of those turnovers.
Yeah, if the Raiders would have won, that would have been, because of all the explosives, the sacks, the turnovers, because of the Bears won the step. It's that would have been a big time win for them. But yeah, I mean, it's those big time plays. And look, I know a lot of fans and a lot of talk online was, look, they're not converting these turnovers. They're not taking advantage of the Raiders screwing up. They're settling for field goals. Well, sometimes that happens. And Ben Johnson talked about it. He put a lot of that on him. He said his play calls weren't the best. He talked about it in his press conference last night. He talked about it in his press conference today. He took a lot of that accountability. He has to be better as a play caller. So for one, that's refreshing to hear him talk about, but for two, that kind of points to where this team is right now. It's 4 games in, right? They're still learning and building, but they're able to pull off a win like this, where they got the big plays and you're like, look, they should have won by more. In years past, they would have blown this game. It would have happened. They're not taking advantage of the turnovers. They're settling for field goals. They're not able to push it in. It's going to happen. And here we are. The Bears somehow found a way to get this win. So that's a good win for this franchise.
Yeah, totally. What'd you have?
My number is 38. And 38 is the number of pressures the Bears have as a defense this year. That's Pro Football Focus. Like I said, I talked earlier, everyone kind of measures pressures differently, but this is what they have here. And our guy Mike Payton, who covers the Lions, he tweeted this out earlier. That's where I got this number from. But the Bears have 38 pressures. To put that in context with the rest of the NFC North, the Vikings have 80 pressures as a defense. The Packers have 76. The Lions have 75. The Bears just aren't getting after the quarterback. It's just not happening. So where's Montez Sweat? Where's Deo Odengbo, right? Where is Jervon Dexter? Where are these guys that are paid and drafted highly to get after the quarterback? It's just not happening. Could Dennis Allen blitz a little more? Could he do a little more stuff creative up front? Probably. But then, look, he's missing so many guys in a secondary. Does he want to take that chance? I think the fact that Dennis Allen is kind of doing just enough here to kind of keep his defense afloat. And look, the run defense was awful. But you can't blitz. You can't, do stuff creative up front with your front seven all the time because you're exposing your back end. So I think that's part of it here. I think as the Bears get a little healthier, and Kyler Gordon should be back soon. Jalen Johnson's probably not going to make it back here. But, you got to get some of these guys back. TJ Edwards at linebacker, he's a key cog of this defense. You get some of these guys back, maybe now you feel a little more able to kind of put some pressure up front with some blitzes because you trust your guys in the back end more. And look, Tyreek Stevenson, 2 games in a row, played pretty good, so maybe he's coming to his own. But you need to get your guys healthy and to kind of allow your defense kind of make those plays and get after the quarterback.
It's kind of interesting, that stat, because, I recognized right away. I saw you interacting with him on Twitter with Mike. We've been writing with Mike for a really long time. And I saw the numbers that he put up for the Bears, and I was like, well, I don't know what the pressure number is off the top of my head, but I know that sack number is wrong.
Yeah.
And so I said, the Bears only have 5 sacks, not 6. And you were like, yeah, I think PFF counts half sack for this. Sacks. And then all of a sudden, the numbers are off from the official team sack. And I was like, okay, so then what else is wrong? And I don't track pressures, but I'm looking at pressures right now on Pro Football Reference, which I would trust as kind of an official source. I think they're probably pulling as more an official source. And they have the Bears down for 23 pressures. They have the Lions down for only 21. So, that seems super low.
Well, the thing real quick, the thing with Pro Football Reference pressures, those are sacks and QB hits combined.
They take those out, I assume, right?
Is that what they? No, I think they combine those two. That's all they do. They don't actually count like I don't think
quarterback knockdowns plus sacks.
Yeah, I think it's knockdowns plus sacks. I don't think they're actually looking at the film and saying, okay, this guy got close to the quarterback, pushed him off his spot, so that's going to be called a pressure, so to speak. Like I said, it's very, very nuanced. Every site's a little different. I saw a few other sites that do analytic stuff. Summer Sports, I think, is one. And they all kind of track pressures a little differently. But as long as we're playing in the same sandbox here, like you like to say, it's just going off their numbers. I think it's a pretty reliable that the Bears are lower than the rest there.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, it looks like, just with some quick math, it's sacks plus quarterback knockdowns plus hurries, which a hurry to me would be like a pressure, right? Yeah. So that would be those 3 things added. But I don't know where they're getting their hurry data from. So anyway, it's interesting because, like you say, if it's in the same sandbox, then we can all agree. It's just interesting here because I would have expected the Lions to be quite a bit higher than 21, but they might, hurries might be a harder bar for Pro Football Reference than PFF. And then I was also wondering, well, maybe it's 3 guys recorded a pressure on the same play, but one source would say that's 1 quarterback pressure.
Pro Football Focus,
and Pro Football Focus they would say, well, that's 3 pressures because we do the individual stats and then roll them up, right? Yep. So, again, I just be careful where your data is coming from.
Yes, exactly.
That's all I'm trying to get across here. So, all right, let's move to Caleb's corner. So 22 of 37, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, which was that tipped ball to Max Crosby. 1 sack taken for 10 yards lost. He had 8 runs for only 13 yards. One of them was a 12-yard gain. I think he had they must have given him a lot of negative yards on that snap, that bad snap, the snap that he wasn't ready for. And I don't know if you want to say it's a bad snap, but the quick snap that he wasn't ready for that went behind him, I think those went as negative rushing yards. I think that's why you're seeing the 8 carries for 13 yards with a 12-yard run. I think that one counts as a negative run. So anyway, I'm just trying to square that number in my head as I'm looking at it. But I felt a little grindy, and then there were a lot of drops, particularly from one player. And
we'll talk about him, I'm sure, in a little bit.
We're going to talk about that guy in a minute, but overall, escapability was on display once again. Again, only taking 1 sack, that makes your workload a lot lighter. This is the guy that set the, he almost set the league record, did the whatever. It was very close to the league record last year. And he's flipped the narrative, right? Like now he's that sack, that pressure to sack ratio is now pretty good relative to the rest of the league. And, he's showing that athleticism. And, when he gets on the run, a lot of times he's making more damage when he just takes off and scrambles for some yards. And I'm waiting for the scramble drill to actually click here, because he's got it in him. He's got that playmaking ability in him, but it just seems to be that not the last. There's other things that probably still need to like switch on here and click, but it's one of those things where when that clicks in, it's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, he can't do everything good. I mean, he's still
not right out of the gate. He can eventually.
It takes a little time. I mean, the numbers, they were fine. They were what they were. I mean, he missed a couple throws. Like, quarterbacks miss throws, right? It's like it happens. Quarterbacks have bad games. It happens. But what did he do in the end? What did he do? Did he come through at the end for you? Yeah, I mean, that last drive, he was 4 for 5, 43 yards. He had 2 runs for 18 yards. Overall, in the fourth quarter, he was 6 of 8 for 60 yards, 4 runs, 17. So that includes the victory formation kneel there as well. So, I mean, he did what he had to do at the end, and he helped put his team in a position to win. Good quarterbacks from the league have done this before. It's nothing new. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has had a bad game, and then at the end, it's Mahomes' time. He went in there and he gets the job done. He leads the team to victory. I'm not saying that's where Caleb is right now. I'm not saying he's at that level. But the fact that he has that gene in him where he's able to do this here, he kind of came through. We kind of saw it a bit last year, too. I mean, the record didn't show it. But how many late game situations did Caleb kind of come through and kind of bring his team back a little bit? The Viking game comes to mind. The Washington game comes to mind. He had his team in position to win, and it didn't work out. So I think now with the better team around him, with a better play caller, better coaching around him, we may see some more of these late game heroics manifest themselves.
Yeah, they should have created a new statistic last year just to kind of track this. It was game-winning drives where your team blew it on the other side. I think he would have led the league. Yeah, it was unbelievable last year what was happening there. I mean, I think he, like you said, he took the team down, put him in a position. I think there were some people being a little like, oh, you left too much time on the clock, and it's like, well. Yeah, but they also scored it, and you got to count on your special teams and your defense to pick you up, and the special teams ended up picking them up, right? And honestly, the defense did. They had that tackle for loss there that forced them to kick the ball on a little bit further back than they would have liked, and they didn't let them get a first down there, so they would have taken it down to 0, right? Yeah. So there's the defense did give up some yards and let him attempt the field goal, but they did have a couple positive plays there because if they would have made that, there still would have been 38 seconds left. You get a kickoff, let's call that 6 seconds. Caleb's going to have 32 seconds and 2 timeouts to operate to try to get them in field goal position to win, right? So, there still was some positive stuff at the end, even from the defense. Even if we kind of man, we've seen this before, kicker's going to drill this or whatever. Right. So I think it would have been interesting to see if Caleb could have conducted that. I'm glad we didn't get to find out because the block field goal was much more fun. But I think you're right. I think, we're seeing, the clutch gene or whatever you want to call it come in. It's just about stacking games, but also stacking consistent focused drives and finishing those off. That I think is that next step to clean some of that stuff up. And Ben Johnson talked about it today in the presser too, putting a lot of it on him, which you love to see a coach put things on him, right? and talk about it in a way that's like, hey, I need to call better plays. I need to call better play sequences. And once you get all this ironed out, again, a week in the lab is going to do wonders here. You wonder if this is going to really start to click at an even higher level.
Oh man, that would be beautiful, right?
It would be beautiful.
That's what we're looking for here. We're looking for this team to take a step. When the schedule came out, I'm like, oh, the bye so early. That's kind of sucks. Yep. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, okay, that might be what this team needs. And I'm looking where they are now. 2-2 coming out, two games in a row that they won. Those first 2 losses were pretty devastating for different reasons. Buys at a perfect time. They got some injuries they got to have guys come back for. They are eligible to get Austin Booker back off IR. So he may help the pass rush a little bit. So buys in a good place, and then waiting on the other side of that buy, though, is a very good team in the NFC. It's going to really kind of show this team who they are and kind of show them, what they have to do to kind of get better and how they match up with that Commanders team.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we take a break, just another plug for our merch. And I told you guys last week that I was going to bring this on. And this is, I love this so much. This is a rocks glass. I'm trying to put it into the camera here. This is the Bears Over Beers logo that Lester designed a little masking tape over the logo. So he covered beers up and he put bourbon. And he did this for me because I would say this all the time. It's beers over bourbon for me. We usually do it at a loss. And then I just honestly stopped. I lost the taste for beer and I just started bringing bourbon on all the time because I liked it better anyway. So, in getting to the buy at 2-2, I'm bringing on a little. I don't think I've ever drank on this show, or maybe once, but I figured a little Ben Holiday,
Nice.
Ben Johnson's first road win. So Ben Johnson gets a Sunday road win, his first in his head coaching career, which gives him one more than the Matt Eberflus era, which had 0 Sunday road wins during his time. So cheers. If you guys are interested in this, check out the YouTube, check out Windy City Gridiron. We got links. I think it's really cool. Obviously, I've been a part of these shows and whatever, and I love bourbon. And I just thank you, Lester, for a very creative little rocks glass.
The spirit behind it was when you guys doing Bears Over Beers, like you said, it was always a loss. You needed something a little stronger, but it could also be for a nice celebration, a good celebration. Yeah, so that's good. It works both ways. So pick up your Second City Gridiron merch right now. Help us out.
Love it. All right, quick break. On the other side, 3 Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester, let's talk 3 Bears, hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. Where do you want to go for the hot?
We can go a lot of different ways here. I mean, it was a good game. A good game from a few players, but I'm going to go Kevin Byard, the third. I just thought he had another big game, 2 interceptions. He had the tackle for loss at the end. And like you said, that was big because had they not done that, they would have ran it down and it would have been one final play. And who knows if Black would have blocked it if it was a little closer, right? If the kick didn't have a trajectory, it was lower, maybe they would have got the kick in there. So that was a big play by him. He's playing good football, right? 31 years old. I thought he played a good year last year. Everyone's thought, okay, the drop-off's coming because he's at that age, but I think he's still playing at a high level. And, he's one of those guys that, he's a captain of this team. He brings a good sense of leadership. He's a professional. He's one of those guys that, he was brought in by the last regime, obviously, but here he is with this regime. He fits right in. He is the same message that Ben Johnson wants to have his guys give. And I think a guy like Kevin Byard in the secondary is a big plus.
Yeah, I got a game ball from Coach Johnson right after the game. I don't know if you guys caught that clip. Man, vibes are good in that locker room.
Yeah.
It's worth checking out those videos. They're good. And that's the kind of guy that you bring in for that, trying to change the locker room and all that. And yeah, last year it wasn't great, but it wasn't because of Kevin Byard. He's a good player and he continues to be a good player and he's captain for a reason. So 2 picks look like the exact same read.
Yeah, that was
I don't know what Gino was doing. Fool me once, fool me twice, right? It was pretty interesting. Love that pick. Yeah, I've got him written down. I also have his secondary mate, Tyreek Stevenson. Man, what's happened to Tyreek Stevenson in the last 2 weeks? Pass breakup. He recovered the fumble on Ashton Genty that Noah Sewell forced, and then he had a beautiful interception. Undercut, laid out for it, comes down with the ball, gets up, thinks about doing a little Jim Marshall and running the wrong way. But gets turned around and gets a little return out of it. You knew that this was in him, right? Yes. Like, he's a talented football player. Kudos to this coaching staff. Kudos to Dennis Allen, for putting him in a position, sticking with him, I'm sure pushing him, talking to him, right? Pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, whatever you want to say, to put him in a position to succeed. That's what good coaching does. But, we know this is a talented football player. We've seen it. We've seen it on this team, not just like on college tape. This is a good football player. Probably had his confidence pretty shaken. I'm sure it's going to be pretty interesting with him, going into Washington in 2 weeks and hearing it from the crowd again, right? But, we know that this is a good football player. He has now balled out 2 straight weeks. He needs to, with Jalen Johnson down. And so him stepping up into his potential is probably the best news on the defensive side of the ball that we could ask for.
Second round corners have a pretty good hit rate, and that's where he came from. And, he had nice college tape and nice rookie year. And then last year things kind of fell apart. And, you got to figure it's maybe last year, some of it was mental, right? Maybe he just wasn't really in the right place. And that Washington game, a lot of stuff fell apart after that. And, he was, that was on his shoulders, and he had to learn and grow from that moment. And seems like he has. Like you said, Dennis Allen's doing a good job coaching him up. Al Harris, his DB coach, doing a good job coaching him up. He's playing good football. Look, it happens all the time with other teams. This guy just, all of a sudden it clicks with this guy. It just hasn't happened for the Bears very often. So we're due, right? We're due for a guy that kind of middle along, not hit his potential. Then all of a sudden things click for him and he becomes a good football player. And look, if Tyreek is there, it's going to be huge for this team, because Jalen Johnson's not going to be back till the last quarter of the season, if that.
It could be the difference between a team that could battle for the playoffs and a team that's like, you're just trying to find moral victories, right? That's how important it is to have a top tier. And that's why you feel so good about Jalen Johnson, because he's a cute, he's cornerback 1. You feel really good about him. He's one of the best, when healthy, 5-6 corners in the league. Like, he's that good. And so losing him is just a massive loss that no one's really talking about. And if you can have a guy that you can count on to step in that role, there's a lot of good receivers on the schedule. And so it's going to be important that he continues to play at a high level and make that progression and have confidence in himself. The be a goldfish mentality is that saying applies the most to corners in this league, right? You could say it to any football player because you're all going to make mistakes, but it's corners that thing applies to the most. And if you're in your head and your confidence is down, it really does steamroll a lot of guys. And so if they can unwind that and unlock that athlete, unlock that football player, that's incredible. So, keep stacking good games. We're all about Tyreek Stevenson here. We see the talent. We know what he's all about,
for sure.
Let's flip it around and talk about the cold bowl porridge. Very obvious one. I'll let you at it.
I had the same. I'm going over my notes from last week. I just kind of rewrite them, right? Each week I have my categories laid out, and I got down to this, and I'm like, I don't have to rewrite this one. It's the same as I had last week. The Bears' run defense. I talked about last week. The run D was 31st in the league at 5.5 yards per attempt. They got even worse. Now they're at 6.1 yards per attempt on the season. They're dead last in allowing 658 yards in just 4 games. They got to clean that run D up. The defense, like I said, I don't know how Dennis Allen's doing it. He's kind of, piecing things together, making enough plays when they have to. The takeaways are great, but, that's not really sustainable. You got to get after the quarterback and you got to stop the run. And look, if the Raiders could have just ran Genty the entire game, they probably would have, but that's just not realistic. I see how people on social media, the Raiders should just keep running every play. Well, you can't run every play because, you are going to stack the box and you're giving them the pass. You're giving them that because you have to try and do so much to stop the run. And the Bears made a play when they had to, but overall, come on, 7.7 yards a pop against the Raiders, up to 6.1 yards. I'm not sure what the worst run D in Bears history is, but 6.1 yards, it's a lot given up per carry.
Yeah, that's not where I thought you were going to go. I didn't think that was the most obvious one. So we'll get to mine here.
That's because my notes were already there for me.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
that's an easy one. I'm gonna
that's
stick it there. Yeah.
Well,
what do you got?
I do think that in terms of run defense, that you're right. Obviously, something's very, very wrong, and they need to clean that up. I do think that the turnover part of it, a lot of people are saying it's not sustainable, and I agree to some extent. You can't count on those, but one of the reasons why we liked Dennis Allen coming in is that he had a real attacking mentality when it comes to defense. And for those of you that are caught the first couple episodes of 85 at 40, Bill's taking the lead of doing a special series where we're celebrating the 85 team. One of the things that you realize when you go back and you look at Buddy Ryan's defense was that he kind of thought about things like an offensive guy, right? Because he was like attacking and he was trying to take it he was trying to dictate terms.
Yeah.
And you don't see a lot of defensive coaches act like that all the time. A lot of defensive coaches will sort of try to be passive and understand what the offense is doing and try to react to that. And the thing I like about a guy like Dennis Allen is that he will take it to the offense and he will try to dictate terms. And that can lead to more interceptions. It also can lead to more explosive plays on the other side. And we've seen a little bit of that with some of those runs. But I think overall, I do think that there could be a potential for an uptick in turnovers. Like, I don't think that this is, four in a game back-to-back weeks is a lot, but I don't think it's a mistake that Dennis Allen's defense is causing some of these. But yeah, you have to if the fundamentals aren't there, teams are just gonna take advantage of that. So it is a good one to highlight. For me, we gotta talk about Cole Kmet, right?
Yeah.
That's his worst game as a pro.
I was saving him for you. I figured
I don't want we are pro Cole Kmet on this show. We've, a lot of people like to drag him for this, that, and the other thing, for not being George Kittle. I think essentially is the problem. But, Cole Kmet's a good football player. This is a bad football game from Cole Kmet. He had multiple false starts. He had at least one drop, which is over the middle. It's right in his hands. That is a drop. I either had two more that he could have hauled in. I would have called the second one a drop, and the third one along the sidelines was a tough play. But that's a play that he's good enough to make that play.
Yes, for sure.
And so, there's three opportunities there to really pick up your team. And, he did not. And, you look back at Caleb's stats and he's at 22 of 37. Well, what happened on him? That's not a very good completion percentage. What happened there? Well, Cole Kmet had 3 balls that he probably should have hauled in. Right. And that looks a lot different if you're talking 25 of 37 for 260, 270. A couple of those plays were big plays down the field. Right. So I think that he had a rough game. I know he's been, applauded for his blocking. He's making too much money to just be an inline blocker. I know that that's what he is, being counted on to do, particularly when you bring in a Colson Loveland, but Loveland missed this game. And so a lot of those routes that Loveland probably would have ran in that game, probably would have caught, were run by Cole Kmet, and he dropped them. And so I think you have to call out Cole Kmet in this one.
Yeah, like I said, he's making money to be better than that. He knows it. I'm not sure if he met the media after the game or even today, but he knows it. It's eating him up inside. Ben Johnson been using him all over that offense, right? In line, in the backfield, H-back, split out wide. He's a big part of what Ben Johnson wants to do as far as, looking for mismatches. And this week he had an opportunity, and this week he did not live up to that. Like you said, one was just a terrible drop. The other two he should have had, and I'm sure he'd be the first to say. So it's got to be better. He's not Brandon Malulia. Is that how I say his name? From back in the old Mike Martin. It was close. I got Brandon. I got Brandon right. I got Brandon.
Yeah, I got Brandon. Brandon M.
Nice. Yeah. So Brandon Malulia. He's not a blocker.
Manu Mayulano.
I think you're wrong too.
I think
you're wrong too. But it's okay.
You think I'm wrong? I probably am wrong. Yeah. I wasn't prepared for that.
See, if I would have gave you a little heads up, you would have had that.
Probably. I would have looked it up.
Yeah. So, he's not that. He's not a blocking guy. He's paid to be a all around tight end. Yeah, he's your inline guy, but yeah, he can do some other things for you, and he's got to catch the ball. And like you said, if he catches those, now you're looking at a whole different stat line for Caleb. You're looking at a whole different game. I mean, those drops really
probably a comfortable win.
Yeah, comfortable win if he makes those plays. So he's got to be better, and I'm sure he will be moving forward. Players have bad games. It happens.
Players have bad games. We're not saying Cole Kmet's a bad player. That's very clear, and that's never the spirit of Cold Bull, of course. I just want my second one, because I thought we were both going Cole Kmet here. I was going to point out points off turnovers need to improve. You mentioned it at some point in the show. They had 13 points on 4 turnovers. They got a field goal on the first turnover. The second turnover was that pick from Crosby, which was a freak play. Like, I mean, it is what it is, but so that one sucked. It hurt. Like they were going in to score a touchdown there. That was a tough interception there. They got a field goal in the third one, and then they got 7 points on the last one. So, you'd hope that 4 turnovers turn into something like, 20 points, at a minimum, and only getting, 13 there is not enough, right? Like that, especially with the field position that they gave. It wasn't like they picked the ball off at your own 5-yard line, right? Like that. These were like deep into enemy territory turnovers. So needed to score a lot more than 13 there. The Just Right Bowl. So couple options here, but I'm very curious what you ended up picking.
I'm going to go head coach Ben Johnson.
Okay.
Because it was not the best game from Ben Johnson, right? As a play caller. We all felt it. We kind of saw it watching the game live. He addressed it. They asked him a question in the press conference after the game, and he says, look, I go with my gut on a lot of these play calls. When I call plays, I go on my gut, and my gut was not right this game. So he admitted right off the bat there. Today, he had a chance to review the film, right? He went back at it today in his press conference. He said it again. He said, I take accountability. I wasn't a very good play caller in the game. So that's okay, right? This is going to happen with him. He's a young coach. He's still coming in his own as doing everything together, right? He's got to manage the game. He's got to call the offense. I expect there to be some bumps along the road. I wanted it to be a smooth sailing 4-0 start to the season. Super Bowl, Super Bears, let's go. But, that's not realistic. We got to let this team grow into itself, and he's still learning what he can do. He's still learning what his players around him can do. He's still learning when to call certain things and how his guys can react to what happens here. He called two tricky kind of plays in the game, the stumble bum and then the fake flea flicker. Some of them didn't work out. Caleb kind of took some credit for screwing that up. He said he missed the guy. He probably should have threw it. Then the other one was nice. Fake flea flicker, it got like 7 or 8 yards. So
it was a penalty.
Kind of, Swift,
yeah.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, it was effective as far as the yardage gain, but yeah, I mean, this is a play caller, a team still coming into its own, still kind of changing the culture. It doesn't happen overnight. And 2 nice wins. Ben Johnson kind of figuring things out. Caleb kind of figuring things out. Everything's right on track for this franchise.
We talked a lot in the preseason just offline. We said if they can get to the bye at 2-2, and get into the lab and figure this out, you feel pretty good. If they could get to the bye at 3-1, you're feeling like you're playing with house money, right? Like you're feeling really good. They got to the bye at 2-2. It's fine, right? Like it's not ideal. Obviously ideal would be 4-0, but 3-1 felt doable, particularly the Minnesota game, but 2-2 is fine, right? Get in the lab, figure it out. For me, the Just Right, I had 2, and I'm gonna use them both here. One is Torrey Taylor. He had one really nice pin and really stole a possession from the Raiders, right? Like they tried to just get out of the end zone, of the shadow of their end zone. They wasted 2 plays, and it was 3rd and 8, and rally and tackle, and they punted, right? So that was a great pin play from it, and it wasn't because of the coverage. That ball was just laid down there and came to a stop, before a Bears player came and touched it down. And then he had another one that should have been, right? He basically handed it off to the gunner, who just didn't find it in the air, even though he had enough time to do so. And it bounced about, if it was a snake, it would have bit him, as as my coach used to say. But it was right there, and that would have been number 2 within the 2-yard line, 3-yard line. Right. So it's good to see him hopefully get that pin ability back. That's a lot. I mean, the open field punting has been fine, right? The open field punting has been fine. The coverage has not this year, but his ability so far as a pro and the open field has been good. He has not been able to convert a lot of those pin opportunities. He did one here, and it impacted the game. That's it's exactly what you want to see. So Torrey Taylor gets one, and then Josh Blackwell, man, like I love this guy. We talk about Josh Blackwell is one of those guys that he sticks when he's on the field. He gets an opportunity to play some defense. He does some good things. He's on special teams, core special teamer. Like he is a good football player for this team. You need guys like this, and for him to take that tip from your long snapper. I went back and watched, I took a couple screenshots, put them on Twitter, and like he was close. He was close on an extra point. He was close on the field goal before that, like very close. And so you could see him timing it up. And then supposedly, Richard Hightower on the headset before the snap said, Josh is going to block this one.
Yeah.
Like he felt he could see it, incrementally getting closer and closer. And sure enough, he did. And, I didn't catch it in real time, right? Like I'm not catching how close he was until you go back and rewatch. And when you take a closer look, it was like, yeah, he was getting pretty close. And now that that he had a little tip on the slight movement, and it is so slight. Like, I'm watching, I'm like, man, that is, I mean, I there's a story where that I have from my playing days. When I was like just a scrappy guy, I'd like trying to, make some noise on the practice squad, like a scout team, right? Our starter on the first team when he would pull, his stance would be different. And so I picked up on it. And so when he would do that, I would shade a little to the outside, and he would pull, and I would just sprint on his hip pocket, and I'd follow him right to the runner, and I'd blow up TFL. Right. I did it like multiple times. And I was like, this is, I picked something up on, seeing this guy, and, and I'm kind of putting myself out there, and I was like, I'm going to tell, cause this is my teammate, and I'm going to like make sure that he knows that this is what he's doing. But like, that's football, man. It's like you pick up on the minutest little detail of something that's happening that's a little off, and you can like exploit that, right? It's basically like, a batter that's like, that guy's tipping his pitches.
Yeah.
I know when he's throwing his curveball. I know when he's throwing his fastball. I'm not saying anything to anybody else, or I'm just telling my teammates we're going to take advantage of that. And then eventually it gets out, right? Like that sort of thing gets exploited, and it's really cool when you see something like that happen, and it is so like directly impacts a game like this. That's why it's one of the very many reasons why I just love football so much. It's the most complicated game in the world, but it's also like something so tiny and minor, and someone being so hyper specific about something like, hey, the way that guy's snapping the ball should give you an opportunity to time the snap super well. It's guys, it is so amazing and stunning that happened.
I think we saw it happen last night in the Sunday night game where I think a Packer player jumped way off sides, and they talked about how they picked something up and they thought that they were going to time it. They didn't time it. They didn't care at the time. Whatever the play was, it was the 5 yards wouldn't have mattered. But, those little things matter. You pick those things up, and it comes through at the right time. And look, there are so many block kicks this year. What's going on? I mean, everyone, as soon as you get across 50, you're in field goal range for some of these kickers. But there's also a ton being blocked this year. Is it the trajectory of the kick? Is there something else going on here? Is it the overload? They just kind of figured things out. So I think they're on like a record-setting pace just through 4 weeks. So it's going to be fun to see, how teams adjust. You talk about how it's like a chess match, right? I mean, there's so much stuff going on. Who knows what's going to be tweaked next? Next year, it's going to be something else, right? The tush push was a year ago. Everyone's trying to figure this out. Now it's going to be like, what's going on with the kickoff rule? Why are teams
kickoff rules huge this year?
Why are teams blocking these? Yeah, it's like the knuckleball kick is the thing. You get it. I mean, look, Jairo Santos is who he is. They don't take him out there for super long ones, but he got a game ball. right? 4 for 4 on those. And so, yeah, I mean, he does his job when he's called on. So, you know, it's football. What are you going to do?
That's football. I love
football.
It. You know, that's why we're here. It's really cool to see these things play out. So I just, you know, props to our guy Blackwell for making the play, and for Daly for tipping him off. I mean, that's super cool. I just I love the nuance of this game. Like it's just it's a true love for me, and you know, special teams, offense, defense, I don't care. Like if it's a football play, it matters and we should cover it. And here it is. Like here's something that was the difference between winning and losing here. So let's you know, final thoughts before we get out of here. Anything before we head to the bye and take a week off?
Like I said, the bye's had a good time for this team, but we're not taking a week off.
Well, Bear and Balance is taking a week off.
Bear and Balance is taking a week off. We're going to have a special version of Bear and Balance next week, where we're going to cover the recap of the 1985 Super Bowl champion Bears 46-10 win over the Patriots. We're going to watch that game, have a Bear and Balance show based on that game as part of our 85 at 40 series we have running right now. And you just had a chance to talk to Gary Fensick earlier today. You and Bill Zimmerman interviewed him earlier today. That'll be out this Saturday, right?
I did. I talked. Bill's kind enough to invite me into that interview, and Gary Fensick, like, awesome interview. I mean, like Jimbo Covert. If you guys haven't caught that one, such a cool conversation. Super smart football guy. I mean, what you would expect from a Hall of Famer, but like still like up on the game and, you know, understanding how his play relate. And it was Gary Fensick same way. Like just awesome guy. And, you know, he grew up in the Chicago area. And so he just like, he's a fan of the Bears too, like, and then played for the Bears. Like, it's just that sort of stuff's really cool as well. And, you know, he was relaying a lot of stories, and I got to say, like, it is, I put a little pressure on myself to try to ask these guys some questions that maybe they're not being asked either ever or very often, which is very difficult for a team that's been interviewed more than like anything else in Chicago history. And so I do think that these guys are giving us a little bit, a few things that are a little bit different. And so I do think it's worth your time. Bill's doing an amazing job. And we're going to just give our Bear and Balance flavor to the big game and use the bye week in that way. So excited to go back. I have watched highlights many, many times. I have not sat down and watched the replay of and I was 3 years old when it happened. So I have not watched the like actual, you know, broadcast start to finish of the Super Bowl. So I'm excited to go back and do that.
It was a fun game. It's
it's
seared in my memory. I was a teenager. It was seared in my memory. It was one of my, you know, fantastic. It couldn't get any more, unfortunately, but that was just a great team, fun team. It was a great time to be a Bears fan.
Yep, it'll be good. We'll stick around just for a little bit for the YouTube crowd. But for those of you that are listening to us, thanks for listening, and bear down. What do we got?
Got our guy Alex that finally did it, clutch the victory from the jaws of defeat. This is a new feeling. Yes, it is. This is it's happened right before our eyes. This team is growing. They're becoming a different type of team after what we saw the last few years under Flus. Was just not this, you know. It's Ben Johnson's the deal. He's the real deal. It's fun to see him, what he's doing with this team.
Just a different mentality, you know, demanding a higher level from these guys, you know, holding them accountable. You know, we heard a lot of that last year. You know, we need coaches to hold us accountable and whatever. And then people, what does that really mean? What is that? You know, and it's like, well, you know what it means? Watch what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right. He's holding himself to accountability. He's holding his coaches to be accountable, and he's holding his players. But it starts with that number one thing I said, right? I mean, like I can't express how much Matt Eberflus drove me nuts. I didn't like the hire at all when it's like we can go back and be like, oh no, I didn't like it. You know, I didn't understand it. I didn't know who he was, but of course he's the coach. We're going to give him a chance. We're going to see what happens. What drove me nuts was he never took any accountability for anything he did. And when we had that conversation, I remember that Washington game last year like it was yesterday. And I remember where I was. I was in a hotel in Boston. I was watching, and I just remember when it happened. And I was like, this is a crucible moment here. And he came out and he said some BS, and he doubled down the next day, and he just wouldn't take any responsibility for himself, even though he clearly made mistakes.
Yeah.
And here's Ben Johnson in a win,
yeah,
coming out and being like, I wasn't good enough. Like, I wasn't good enough. I'm taking responsibility for that. Like, I need to be better. And it's like, guys, if you don't like Ben Johnson, I don't know what you're watching. Like, he's not going to be perfect. There's no one perfect, right? But he is changing the culture. He's flipping he's mucking out the stall of that crappy Matt Eberflus era, and he's putting down fresh hay. I mean, like, this is a guy.
That was an analogy right there, man.
I didn't know where I was going with it. Hopefully, I landed it. But like, it's good. Like it, and you got to believe. You got to believe in this guy. And again, this was my guy. I got a little more invested in than others because I was talking him up for 2 years. But I don't know what you're seeing if you don't like him so far.
Yeah, he's the real deal. And what happened to all those people? Oh, he's just a
nerd.
He's an offensive nerd. He's another typical Trestman. That's what we heard. He can't be a leader of men. He can't command a locker room. Okay. He flipped that on its script pretty quickly here in Chicago, where he is definitely a taskmaster. I mean, he has the best of both worlds. You see your guy Eggs at the end of the game kind of jumped on his head as they're walking off the field.
They love him.
It's like, dude, they love him. He's hard on them. He expects greatness out of them. He pushes them, but he's still there. I mean, he's a player's coach, but he's also a hard ass. It's like, this is it. This is the best it's ever going to get. It's got to work out. I swear, it's gotta.
I'm going to address this. It's not on the screen, but our guy, Papa Scarb, sent me a text. He says, what is this Prime Vision All 22 you speak of?
Oh, my God.
I don't know if he doesn't know, but and the rest of you don't know, if you have Amazon Prime and watch Thursday night games, when you go in to watch it, go to the options and pick the third option, which has like a real nerdy guy named Sam as the picture, and they play the game on All 22. It's amazing. This is what I have been asking for like 20 plus years, because I know the tape's out there. Like, if the tape exists, like, why can't we see it? It's honestly should be an option for every game. It changes the way you watch a game. I will watch every Amazon Prime game, one, because Thursday night's a nice night to watch football, but because it's a different way to watch a game live, and I really like it. Some of the stat stuff, whatever, the guys that like they'll have them glow when they think they're gonna like blitz and stuff. Yeah. It's almost like this is a little too eerie for me. Yeah. When they put the AI on and they're like, oh, we think that this guy has a likelihood of getting the first down, or a likelihood of, it's like that I'm not in love with, because it almost feels like too much for me, but it's interesting. But yeah, definitely check that out, because that's a fun way to watch a game.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I said, the guy jumps in, he kind of gives little tidbits. They have like because they're all chip the players these days. So it's all like the next gen technology, kind of shows their routes, the concepts, kind of see how it comes together, how it lays out on a football field with the All 22. It's definitely fun to kind of watch, see it happen there.
What else we got?
Look, our guy's back. Look. Detroit versus everybody.
I mean, thanks for the click, Don. I don't know what else to say, buddy. Yeah. We're nice to Detroit people around here. You know what I mean? Like,
I even highlighted a tweet from our guy who covers the Lions. Yeah. Look at Kevin Bayard, my hero yesterday. Yeah, man, he's good. I like the signing when it happened, and then he continues to play at a pretty high level. I think he was a 2-year deal, right? So this is technically his last year.
Yep.
If he keeps it up, I would not be opposed to having him come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those, maybe he understands that, maybe he doesn't, but if he likes what's cooking in Chicago and wants to continue, and that the level of play continues, you bring him back for a year, probably, right? Like, it's tough to like want to guarantee a bunch of years for a guy that's over 30. But yeah, I mean, betting on secondary players past their 30s is tough, but safety, maybe a little bit more than corner.
Yeah. Fusebox 23, good teams find a way to win games like this. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. If you're a bad team, you got to beat other bad teams, which is what we thought they did with the Cowboys. Although the Cowboys, maybe they're not as bad as we think they are. But regardless, if you play a team you're supposed to beat, you got to beat them. They did it last week. Another one. Yeah, they weren't favored to win in Vegas, but, everything went wrong. Found a way to win. You got to do that. You can't be considered good till you beat these teams and you win in games like this. And that's where this team is. And they're, like I said, they're growing. We're watching them grow. They're becoming a different team right in front of us.
Yeah, I seen this one from Chris.
We got to bring Chris up here. She's a long time.
But stunk it up, no question. I almost wonder if he was hurt, but I think he just sucked. I didn't see anything that made me think that he was hurting. Again, sometimes guys just have bad days. I don't think it's like the moment's too big for Cole Kmet. Like he's made plenty of plays in the past, but that is rough, man. I mean, I can forgive the one along the sidelines because this is a tough play, and he's not a wide receiver; he's a tight end. The other two are rough. I mean, the one just hits him right in the hands over the middle. It's a huge play. It's a huge play. Hold on to it, make a play. He's important to this team. It's it's not like it's not like we can be like, he just doesn't, they get Loveland back and he'd be fine. Like, he's going to be on the field a lot.
Yeah. We'll finish with this last one here about Kmet. If Kmet's play continues to be poor and Loveland returns big after the bye, is this Kmet's last year in Chicago? So I looked it up, and he is signed through 2027, but there is a potential out in his contract after this year. They're still going to get hit with a pretty significant dead cap of 3.2, looks like, if they make a move after this year, which is a pretty significant hit. But if they feel that they're ready to move on and they can use that money elsewhere, which they'll free up quite a bit, they'll free up like 8. If they feel they can put that to better use, I like him. I think he's a good football player, but at that money, you have the guy who's kind of, you expect to be the top, your primary tight end receiver. You can't just pay Kmet if he's just your move around guy, block guy. I mean, you can't pay him that money if that's what he is. If they're truly going to make this a 2 tight end offense, they're going to use both guys and get them both involved in the offense, and yeah, you can justify keeping them at that price tag. But if you're not, if it's going to be kind of like a, Loveland's going to get the bulk of the targets, Kmet's just kind of like your leak out occasional guy. I think it might be his last year in Chicago.
Here's my prediction. It's too early for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Is that you see Loveland take off, he's going to be who he is, but you still like Cole Kmet. There's nothing wrong with Cole Kmet, but you say to Cole Kmet, we'd like to keep you around, but we can't do it with this salary. We're going to need to cut you. We got to open this up because we're going to go after X, Y, and Z. But we want to have you back, and here's the number that we're comfortable having you back at. He's a Chicago guy. Maybe he's cool with that, and maybe he says, nope, I need to go make money, and tries to get a bigger deal somewhere else, or maybe he tests the market, and the Bears say, come back and let us know what you get, and maybe we'll talk, right? I could kind of see something like that, because I don't think they want to cut him and just be like, thank you for your service, clean out your locker, you're out of here. I mean, he's important to the fabric of the team, but you're going to have to start making those decisions, and it's Ben's team, right? And if Ben says like, no, I need to go get this, or we need to go, put some money in that defensive line or whatever it is, then you're going to have to find ways to free up some money, and that could be a way to do it.
Yeah, I like him. We both like him. He's a good player, but you drafted Colson Loveland, so that's obviously
with a high pick.
The new regime changes all the previous stuff. Everything's out the window. Now it's going to be what Ben wants for his offense going forward, and he's going to want some changes, and maybe this is one. So.
Well, a win is a win is a win. There's no such thing as an ugly win. Hat tip to the den master who likes to say that. Sometimes the way that you get there might be a little muddy, might be a little ugly, but man, I thought this team deserved to win in terms of like making plays. I don't understand the interpretation otherwise. Football games are hard to win, and they're especially hard to win on the road. The Raiders are not a nobody, like they're not a pushover. they've got some players and they've got a really good coach, right? That if the Bears would have hired Pete Carroll, it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world, right? I mean, like this is not like the worst team in football that they played on the road, and I don't know, man. I'm happy to get into the bye at 2-2, and we're gonna have fun next week. So pick that up and make sure you take a look at the Fensick interview when it comes out on Wednesday. Otherwise, feel good about 2-2. Feel good about the bye. We'll see you after in the Washington game, and until then, everybody, bear down.